What's going on, Linda? How are you?
Hey, thank you both for having me. I'm honored to be on this successful podcast on YouTube. Honored,
You're the
especially
best,
after
Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
yeah, I'm telling you, and like you guys talking about last night's game. Obviously, I was locked in. Um, the Rangers actually played a great game. Like Stolarz, I was going to use the analogy stood on his head, but then without a mask, I mean, the guy was amazing when he stopped JT Miller without a mask. And I don't know, there was so much to that game that to be impressed with. And, it just shows how deep and great the Leafs are because they didn't have to play a complete game. They just sort of like, here's an opportunity. Let's score on it. And Shesterkin can't get this one. And they did. And they won. And they got 2 points.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. It's not very often as a Rangers fan that you watch a game and the other goalie kind of out duels Shesterkin as he's one of the best in the game. But
Yeah.
Anthony Stolarz has emerged as one of the best in the game. I keep waiting for everyone else to take
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah. We've seen his progression. And I think I know he got the new deal, I'm pretty sure, but I think he was underpaid. But I think he's just glad he's found a home, right? Plus, he's such a big goalie in stature, in size, literally, right? 6'5", 2, whatever. Um, and the Rangers couldn't figure out how to beat the guy. But I think when you have a guy like Shesterkin on the other end, being a former goalie that I am back in the day, you get fired up to play against the best. And it sort of inspires you and challenges you to try to go next level. In addition to having that inner fire to get the 2 points for your team. But you could not beat this guy. You can't beat him low because he's so big. And I just was really, who wasn't impressed? I mean, the Rangers should have had about 4 goals last night and came away with a win. And they really poured it on in that third period. The Rangers did. And I really did think they were, once they tied it up, that they were going to find a way to win. But Stolarz kept his team in it. And that's what great goalies do. And right now he's off to a great start.
Shout out SUNY Oswego, by the way, where you played. But I wanted to ask you about the crease, specifically in the States. Like it's pretty incredible. And maybe I'm biased because obviously we cover Anthony on a daily basis, an absolute stud, playing excellent. But he's probably like number 5 or 6 in the depth chart in the States, right?
In the States, they can't pick him out of a lineup. They're like who, but the real hockey fans in the States, they don't see him as going into this season. I don't think they would have rated him a top 10 goalie. Who would? But I just love, especially a guy that's been around the block a few times like he has, and his journey hasn't been, laced with gold or diamonds. He's had to work for every opportunity he's gotten, and he's never given up. And yeah, being a former goalie, even if you play the game in other positions, or even you played positions in other sports, you just have to admire that. You just see it as a challenge. I just heard a great soundbite from Joe Flacco from last night's amazing win over Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. And I don't know if you guys caught that, but I mean, the guy's 41 years old, and I know Aaron's no spring chicken, but Joe, it's his second game as a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. Browns traded him within the division because they're going nowhere. And he just made magic and led them to a victory in their last drive, and it was no big deal. But he spoke about post game that anyone who follows any sport can relate to, especially a guy like that. When he was asked a really good question about how have you processed all this? In 10 days, you've had 2 starts for this new team and this amazing win that you had over the, division leading Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's like, you know what? I just never let myself think of negatives. I looked at it as a challenge. I'm a football player and that's what I do. And so I always want to bring out the best in me, whatever my situation is, because it's not like other situations. And that's how I bring it back to Anthony Stolarz, because he looked at this, he really shined in the last season, which led to, him being the number 1 here in Toronto. And it's just great to see you root for guys like this.
For sure, and it's not unlike Max Scherzer, the Blue Jays, last night
Yes.
putting on a
Great
performance at his
example.
age. You
Yes. Oh my
find
God.
yourself in
I'm
the
so
flow
glad
state.
you
It's
brought him
unbelievable.
up. Can we talk about Mad Max? I am so glad when you see the younger generation, the Paul Screwballs of Detroit, who are like, oh, take me out after 6 innings because I got to sign a big $200 million deal next year. And I don't want to get hurt. And Mad Max is like, you're not, freaking taking me out. No way. And he ends up getting the win, and people had him on the tossed aside, right? You guys know this. They did like he's not going to be a factor. And what does he do? He just is the future Hall of Famer that we love, and we just love that guts. But great job bringing that up, Mad Max. Love it.
It is. It was pretty awesome, and to bring it back to the Rangers, not to go in a different
Yeah.
direction, but they're making almost history for the start that they've had, which is just impossible to find the offense. Is that worrisome, do you think, in New York? And I know you follow the Rangers pretty closely, or is it just
Yeah.
a one-off where that levee is going to break sooner than later?
Yeah, I'm not panicking. I call it a temporary inconvenience. I'll tell you, if they fell flat, if they look like crap against Toronto last night, I'd start a little like worry, because then it would be on the road where, you know, they're not home. They weren't at home, so we all know the issues at home. The three straight shutout losses at home, we get that, and we get this was in Toronto. But if I saw that they weren't playing well or playing with effort and fire, then I would worry. But this is just a pothole. It's a big pothole because you don't want to fall too far behind. But I'm not worried. I think they have enough skill. I gotta be honest though. I thought in the offseason Chris Drury would make some kind of move to, strengthen the offense and get a little deeper for people that can put the puck in the net. Artemi Panarin, he's done everything and more, I feel, because, when he came to the Rangers, there were still a lot of people that thought he wasn't a number one guy that can carry a team. They thought he was like a number two, meaning, he needed a sidekick, right? You cast aside Chris Kreider, who's doing Love and Life in SoCal and Anaheim, and he's kicking butt, and you lose a goal scorer. You lose a guy that put the puck in the net on power plays. I mean, we all know what he does. He was the expert of the tap in and the deflection, that you're familiar with Nylander. And so I was surprised the GM, Chris Drury, did not, I don't know, do enough. So we'll have to see how this goes, but I don't think you can't panic right until American Thanksgiving, right? Then if the
Right.
Rangers have trouble putting the puck in the net, but I like what I saw in Toronto last night, even though they only ended up with a point.
Yeah, before you came on, I was actually talking about it. Reminded me a lot of the Maple Leafs team last year, where I think they're getting used to a new
Mm,
system, a new coach. And to your point,
yeah,
I don't think much was done to begin with in the offseason. It was a weird offseason. I think people were looking ahead to next
yes.
summer as well. Want to mention as well, you're in a steam company because both you and Max Scherzer have been on Leafs Morning Take now. So there's that. But Austin Matthews spinning it to the American styles too. He is
Yeah,
he seems to be back a bit. 4 goals in 5 games. He's snapping it a bit better with his
yeah.
shot. There seems to be nothing about going to Germany anytime soon, which is good.
Yeah, well, you're going to need him healthy. We all know that. It's obvious. He is a target. I love what I saw out of him, and you got to give. I want to talk Toronto, but you got to give the Rangers credit because their last two games was against Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, and until that overtime when Zibanejad fanned on that shot, else that never would have happened. That 3-on-1. Um, the Rangers defensive core, the way they're playing defensively, really they contain Connor McDavid, who only got an assist on their extra point when their empty net goal when they beat the Rangers in Madison Square Garden, and then they basically contained Austin Matthews until the very end. But I root for Austin Matthews. I think he's amazing. He's a good human. He's always been great to me when I've interviewed him. He's just he's just a different. This is the thing everyone has to remember, especially the fans, right? And I'm a fan first. Nick, you know that. I always say that, and that's what I am. Every player, every superstar player has a different personality. You can't put them in a box and put a label on them and say, if he doesn't act like this or say this after a game, after a win, after a loss, something's not right. That's you can't do that. You want your personality, your superstar to be himself at all times. it is such a, I don't have to tell you guys what a pressure cooker it is to play and be the superstar in Toronto and be having to perform all the time. You have to perform in your sleep with those Leaf fans. I mean, and I know I can say that because I grew up in New York and the Rangers have similar pressure, but not as much as Toronto because there are other sports that fans in New York care about. So I love what I see in Austin Matthews, and just stay healthy, Austin, and be fresh for the postseason. Don't kill yourself during the regular season. I'm a big proponent of I don't care what you really do in the regular season, just get your team in the postseason, and then I want to see your best in the postseason, which, as Leaf fans know, we're still waiting for.
I like that mentality, and that's exactly where I wanted to go next. What's your view on Craig Berube's Maple Leafs and this team specifically? Can they get over that hump in the playoffs, Linda?
I think they can because we have to look back at the history of Craig Berube and St. Louis, and they didn't get going until after January. I know it's a different team, different makeup, different culture, the whole 9 yards. But Craig Berube, believes in my philosophy about the postseason and playing your best at that time. And I think, it's not his first rodeo, and I think he'll know now that he's really been around this team a little bit more and had a full training camp with his team, that what it's going to take with these guys. Could they add a piece or two? Perhaps as the season goes along. It's too early, small sample size, but I want to see where we're going with this. And if Stolarz can keep playing like this, but he's not a spring chicken, and I'd still look to even deepen the goaltending even more. You just have to be a little reactive here because this is a very important year coming up for the superstars and playing without Mitch Marner, who's enjoying, life in Vegas. And it's the reason why I picked
Mhm.
Vegas to win the cup this year
Oh,
because of Mitch Marner. I
did
did. I
you?
wanted to go with
Mm.
Colorado. I really wanted. I was this close to going Abs because I love McCarr and McKinnon so much. But I don't know. I like Jack Eichel and that Mitch Marner. Uh, yeah, he has so much less pressure on him in Vegas.
You,
I just think he'll
you
he'll play
like
more
his
freely.
you like his figure skating in warm-ups and the happy faces on his gloves and
Yeah,
all the stuff we're sick of,
that's
Linda.
That's it. That's a perfect example. Come on, he can live free. He can do what he wants and
Okay.
still be Mitch Marner.
You live
You
free,
know?
Mitchie. Well, you talked about the West a little bit. The East has been dominated by the Florida Panthers the last 3 years. Do you have any predictions about the East? Is it going to be status quo with the Panthers kind of being the big dogs, or do you see any change in the East?
Yeah. I picked Carolina to win the Metro because that's a given. And they're off to this amazing start. And you can't knock Rod Brindamore. You can knock him in the postseason, but I want to. I'd like to because they failed in the postseason, but it's not his fault. Um, I like. I so far I'm wrong about Tampa. I really thought the Lightning. I really believed in the Lightning this year. I hope in a month we're not talking about John Cooper being moved upstairs or something or whatever, just to wake up this bunch. I not as we know in the National Hockey League, anything can happen. And he's the longest running head coach in the league, as we all know, behind that Lightning bench. But the Freddie Anderson, the goaltending, there's always talk about Carolina not happy with the goaltending in the postseason. So that's another thing that I'm following to see if they, improve in that department. But the guys on that team, the moves they made so far, so good. So I don't think Washington is going to have the season they had last year. There was just so much going on with Ovechkin. But I think it's like Carolina, and I still believe in Tampa, but they're giving up so many goals. I don't know what's going on there. They got to clean that up, but they better bring in the high-powered vacuum quick in the Lightning because they're gonna. But they're just so talented. They're just so many great players, and the Panthers. These injuries, all they have to do is get in the postseason, and they'll have a fresh Barkov, hopefully, and a fresh. Barkov could be a tough one because he's out longer, much longer, but they'll get Matthew Tkachuk back maybe by Christmas. So we'll see. I don't think Florida Panthers fans should panic at all.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.